Just before we start, let's give you a little bit of background about me. That's me there. This is Normandy Company, and I'm their Sergeant Major, and that is Iraq 2006. Because of that position, because of who I was, and because of these guys, does that make me all knowledgeable when it comes to shooting? Well, in fact, the truth of the matter is, no. The Green Machine, especially the UK forces, I can't speak for anybody else, basically take a body of men, get them from A to B to enable to engage the enemy at our terms, not theirs. That's basically the fundamental business. So it teaches you how to pick up a gun, load it full of ammunition, point it in the right direction and get rid of the enemy. That is what the Green Machine does. It teaches you how to shoot in a straight line, allow for wind, and allow for a bit of this and a bit of that. And that is the sum total of knowledge that each and every one of those soldiers would have gained, apart from the odd one or two in there, which would have been our attached snipers. It wasn't until I hung up my weekend warrior boots and decided to shoot from a civilian point of view that I realised I knew very little or nothing about the subject, especially long range, bullet coefficiency, ballistics, etc. I'd only knew what the military had taught me, so I was very much lacking in those skills. And I had to develop those skills and bring those skills up using certain YouTube videos, which I'll go on about in a minute, and books, which I'll show you one of the books I'm reading currently at this moment in time. It's an ever-increasing learning circle where you think you've got something, you don't shoot enough. I haven't been out for a year. All the skills that I learned last year pretty much faded. So I bought some certain stuff I'll show you later. I haven't used it for a year, and now I've got to re-educate myself again on how to use this stuff because I've simply forgotten, and it's called skill fade, and everybody suffers from it at some point. Anyway, from this playground to that playground over my shoulder, welcome to MAFT UK, and this is Shoot a Mile Part 2. So this then is my Tikka T3 TAC A1. I have actually fired the barrel in, and this is where it all starts. Because YouTube is inundated with do's and don'ts when it comes to shooting. There are some people that say you must fire a barrel in. There are people that say there is no need to fire a barrel in. There are some people that say a 308 won't make it a mile. That is a 308. There are some people that prove it can make a mile. The internet and YouTube is full of do's and don'ts. In the last 24 hours I've watched video that has told me that it's not about case overall length for accuracy, that it's more to do with the ogive and the distance from the bullet to the landing or to the breech, head of the breech, or to the rifling, whichever you want to call it, and then that little jump. And there shouldn't be a jump, or there should be a jump, and it depends on who you watch. Some people say it's about case overall length. Some people say it's from the ogive to the landing. It makes no difference what you watch one day. The next day you will see another video that completely contradicts that video. So what do you do? How on earth do you pick a subject and go with it? Because there are so many different opinions that contradict every single way that you must do something, and no matter what I do on this video, somebody will tell me I've done it wrong. Now, to be fair, that's okay, because I definitely got my scope wrong on the last video on number 1. I actually got it round the wrong way, and if you watch that video you'll know exactly what I mean. But that was just that was a simple mistake. I was right in what I was saying, but I was wrong. I just got them round the wrong way. Anyway, by the by. So, no matter what I do, no matter what I put out on video, somebody is going to tell me that I'm wrong, and this is a better way to do it. So please do me a favour. Don't do that, okay? Unless it's something simple that you see that I have made an error in, then please by all means let me know. But don't tell me that I'm doing it wrong because so-and-so says. I'm not interested. And the way I've got to do it, and the way I feel that it's the way to go forward when you research such a subject, is that by panning the entire YouTube, you can't do it because it contradicts itself in nearly every single step of the way. You need to pick a person. That person needs to be a competent, professional person, and then you need to follow them and then follow their advice from the letter. And that way, if that system works for that person, there is no particular reason why it shouldn't work for you. So pick an individual channel, a person, somebody that you like to watch, somebody that entertains you, and then go with it. There are hundreds upon hundreds of guys out there who are more than willing to show you how they do their loads. And Johnny Reloading benches one. Paul Harrell is one of my favourite watches, but he basically shows a lot of shooting and comparisons from bullets and stuff, but he's about my age and his sense of humour is exactly bob on. And there are other people that I watch as well, but there is one person that I take advice off from shooting. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, I'm going to let you know who that is, because at some point you've got to stop. You've got to make a stand and you've got to pick somebody and you've got to run with him. Now I've watched this person take complete amateurs out, and he's got them shooting out to over 1,000 meters. Now that's pretty good going. So he obviously knows what he's doing, his techniques and everything else that he does, I can't fault. So from Johnny's Reloading, from Paul Harrell to this guy I'm going to show you now, that's where I'm getting my information from. And it is, yes it is, I am mimicking, I am copying, but that is how it goes. There is literature that I've got to show you as well, and I'll go on to that a little bit later. But we need to talk about load developments, we need to talk about what it is I'm going to do, and from that point we can move forward. So now let's have a look at who I follow. First of all, there's this one.
Not half bad, right? Let's have a look at these two groups. The first one was a .766 inch group, and the second was a .675 inch group.
Now you've got Paul Harrell.
But again, I think we can agree that the damage to our meat target was less with the body armor on. So is body armor worth wearing? You be the judge.
Now let's have a look at Ryan Kleckner. And finally, let's get down to some good old literature. This is what was sent to me when I bought the Mill-Dot Master. And I'm going to be honest, I really did bitch about that. That is a totally impractical, it wasn't Fabelon, I did it. That is a totally impractical way of sending you any literature that you're going to use on the ranges. So I complained and said, where's the original book that comes with a Mill-Dot Master? And they just simply didn't have it, so they took the information off the web and then sent me this. Now, to be fair, they did say when I contested it that the information contained with this is updated as opposed to the older stuff within the book, which is a fair shout, but how much can it be updated? Shooting, fundamental science stays relatively level and then jumps very little over a certain period of years. Anyway, so yeah, that's that information. But the book I'm reading is this one here. It's called Long Range Shooting Handbook, and again, that is written by Ryan Kleckner, and that is the information that I'm reading through again at this moment in time. So none of this stuff is military. Now Ryan Kleckner has a military history. The other guys, Paul Harrell, yeah, military history. Johnny's Reloading, not sure, don't know, probably, obvious, I would say so, most guys do, but again, they didn't get that information by shooting unless they were specialists, like this guy here was a specialist. I don't know about Paul, I think Paul was instructional, and Johnny's Reloading, I'm not quite sure. So there you go, that is where I get my information from, and I have to limit that because of the contradictory information from everybody else. So, if you disagree, unlucky. So let's get into the flux of why we're here in the first place. We need to develop a load to enable me to shoot the distances I want to. You can find data from every single manufacturer of bullets or powder, and let me show you some examples of that. Not necessarily the ones I'm going to be using for my 308 loads, but let's take this one. This is a Hogden H4350. I use this a lot with my 243. My 243 likes this one. So if you look at the bottom there, you will see some very basic load information on the bottom there. And this is my Vitivori. And again, there's no direct information on here regarding loads, but the Vitivori website has a huge list of loads for their powder as well. And this is the N550. Now I will be using some of this for my loads for the 308 because it's a good powder. Now bullet wise, I do have some 155 grains and I have some 195 grains, but unfortunately the round that I want, the bullet head that I want, which is the 168 or 175s, very low in stock at the moment. They're on order, so they're waiting to come in, so I'm not going to make my full potential loads. What I'm probably going to do is, because I've fired my barrel in, I'm probably just going to make some 155s, get out onto the ranges and just get this thing onto target a little bit more. Now the load data on the 195s is very scarce. I can't find much at all, if any. So I'm going to have to do a lot more research for my 195s, but there is plenty of load data on the 155s. We'll have a look at that. So that's the powder really. Each powder, whichever the brand, whichever the make, will always have a website which backs it up, which will give you the load information that you need. And I will show you some of that exact same stuff in this book later on. And you can see that I've actually tagged a couple of ears there because those are the pages that's the 243 and the 308 pages that I've gone to. And well, I'll show you in a little bit more detail how I develop a round which is suitable to fire in my rifle. But first let's just have a look at a few bullet heads or bullets. I call them bullet heads. It's just natural for me to do that because it's the head of the bullet, but they're actually bullets. The rest is called the case, the primer and the charge and everything else. So from a parts wise, again, I know people have been going, no, that's just called the bullet. It's called the bullet. Yes, it is called the bullet. I will call it a bullet head. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean. Okay, let's get some bullets out and have a look. So here we go. On my right here I've got my 6mm, or just a sum of my 6mm ammo. I've got some 75 grain, I've got some 100 grain, and I've got some 85 grain, 155 grain, and down here I've got the tipped Match King, which is the 195 grain. And they're all they're hollow points, okay? These are, it looks like an FMJ, that full metal jacket. It's not, it's a hollow point. So we're going to be using some Vitivori with some 155s just to get a load developed, just to get that rifle firing a few rounds down the range, to make sure that I'm happy. Now I do have some ready-mades. Let me show you those. So these are my Seiko TRG. These are 168 grain factory ammo, and these are what I use to fire the barrel in. Now why did I use this ammunition and not some ammunition that I'd made myself? Well, purely and simply, I wanted to make sure that what I was putting through my rifle the first time down the range, I wasn't going to have any issues with. So I bought some factory mades to make sure that any loads that I'd pre-made didn't have a problem. They're the bloody expensive factory ammo. One of the reasons people reload is to save money in the first place, but I think the main reason for reloaders to reload isn't just about cost, it's about accuracy, especially the competition shooters. You will hardly find a competition shooter who doesn't make their own ammunition, and they take things into the next level. If you look back here, you will see 243 Winchester Reloader and the 308 Winchester Reloading. Now these are from Lee, and they are little reloading stations, so you can go out onto the ranges with a tub of powder and you can have a range day. You can take this device with you, this little kit here with you, and you can reload ammunition in the back of your truck. And all the processes that you need to go through are right here. I would very much doubt it. I would very much doubt it if you was to see a competition shooter use one of them in the back of his truck on a range day. Very, very much doubt it. They're great for plinking, for range days, for having fun, but if you're a competition man, that's not for you. I don't diss that, because there's actually something about that particular type of reloading which is awesome, and that is it just does the next size. So if you reload with that, it's like using a collet die. They're really good, really good. I love using them. I think they're fun to use and they're very therapeutic to me, but I have the press instead. We have in front of us our Mil-Dot Master literature, and one of the first things that I did was went out and bought myself a folder to keep everything in. Now obviously that doesn't go into that, but I'm not bothered about that because I wanted to make sure I record my shooting. Now one of the first things that Mr. Ryan Klickner says in his book is don't, or it's unnecessary to do this. So a few markers, pencils, my Mil-Dot Master, my DIY range day recording board. Now these are written in Fablond so as that I can use my permanent marker pens here if I have a problem and it is pouring down with rain and I can't write on that. Then my other option is a waterproof notebook and some pencils. So, and it's just lines. So the options there to record my shooting regardless of the weather, regardless of the conditions. Using this Mil-Dot Master is a skill on its own, and there's a lot of information that you need to know before you can use that, and this is some of the areas that I've literally read this last year, was keen to go last year, was keen to get stuck into it, got my Mil-Dot Master, and these are not cheap. I think I paid over £50, not dollars, pounds for this. It does come with millimeters and it comes with the old imperial inches. So you have yards and inches, and it goes metric as well. And I had to pay extra for the card. This I will explain in much greater detail at some other point, but it is to do with angles, hills, valleys, and the gravitational effects on your ammunition. Let's have a look then and do an experiment from what I said earlier regarding ogive, or case overall length. At the very beginning of this video I did mention there was contradictory videos out there regarding the ogive to the case overall length. Now I haven't got time or the inclination to try and explain exactly what those are to you, but I can show you very, very, very quickly. Right, in its basic format, and it sounds ridiculous, case overall length, right, okay. Using these calipers, now I've got this set up but I can still use the top calipers, I can now measure the case overall length. So what we're measuring now is, instead of the overall length, how accurate are they from the ogive, which somebody was saying that this is more important when it comes to shooting. It's about the jump from the bullet to the rifling. So what I need to do now is I need to recalibrate these. So I will set that there and then 0. Now let's have a look at how accurate Seiko make their ammunition to the ogive. When we shoot, most of us want to shoot to our best of our abilities and make sure that we do what we can and hit the target as often and as accurately as possible, and you can't beat having a tight group. So one way to assist you to do that, one way for you to check your overall length of your bullet, with your rifle is to make sure that your bullet is as far forward as possible and reducing the jump from the bullet case to the land as much as possible, and by reducing that, perhaps it can give you more accuracy. Again, notice I say perhaps because of the arguments to and fro. After replacing that battery very quickly, right, case overall length gauge. How does it work? What happens here? Again, I'm not going to go into much detail. Here I have my 243, and here is my 308 case. Now this is a pre-manufactured case. It is not a fired-in case. In other words, it's not pre-fired and then modified case. It is bought like that. Again, people will always argue about stuff and say that you should fire it at least once and then manufacture this and turn this into your measuring case. Yeah, I understand why. I haven't done that. I don't have a lathe. I'm not going to send it away, because you can send these away and actually once you fired them and then they will drill them for you. No, I cannot be bothered. And there's a reason. Now, when I was checking my rifle and when I was checking my case overall length gauge, I did exactly as I was expected. So I put this in my rifle, removed the bolt, pushed it up through the rifle, dropped in the bullet head just like that. And basically what you do is you push this into your rifle, and when it's firmly uptight, so when it's sitting in the breech as it would do as if the bolt was pushing it and holding it in, you then release this little knob here and you push your bullet head forward. Now if you look, you will see the bullet head coming out, and then when it reaches the land, you then tighten up. That now is my case overall length, not from here but to the ogive. This gives me the maximum or minimum jump from the bullet itself to the actual rifling or land. Now then, what I found in my Tikka T3 was the bullet looked more like that. So it stuck out far too much. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It literally leaves me hardly any bullet seating whatsoever. I'm definitely going to have to knock that back a bit and I'm going to have a jump from my bullet to my landings. I've got no choice. There's not enough bullet seating capacity there that's keeping me sweet. I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to have to bring it back a couple of thou just to give me the jump. I'm going to have the jump, and there lies the argument, you see. And that's what I mean. This is the argument, because I'm now forced to have a jump. I can't follow the guidelines that have been set to me and saying, oh yeah, you want to do this, you want to use them, you want to do that, you want to do this, and that reduces this, that reduces that, and reduces that. Brilliant. I absolutely love it. Fantastic stuff. Is it relevant to me? No, because these are factory made for my rifle 308. I'm going to have to go with the case overall length, I'm afraid. But once I get the case overall length, I can then adjust that to suit my ogives. And like these, I can get my ogives all the same. I can get my bullets the same distance from the ogive to the back of the bullet. So that's what I'm going to have to do. But there is going to be a jump into the breech. So unfortunately, I'm a little disappointed. But that's the way it goes. At least I now know. That is why I explained it, because for me, I can't do what some people recommend. I've done it, I've tried it, and it hasn't worked for me. So now what I've got to do is find an alternative. And that is simply case overall length. There is no argument for me. I've now gone to, I'm going to use Vitavori powder, because that's the one I've got. I'm going to use my 155 hollow point boat tails, and I've been onto the Vitavori website and I've got this relevant information in front of me now. So let's have a quick look. It's telling me N550 starting loads 42.5, maximum is 49.7, and that gives me velocities, let's say feet per second on 42 at 2479 and at 49 2888. So that's what Vitivori says I can do. Now let's compare that to the Lee information. So I've gone through my book, I've got up my 308 Winchester. Let's have a zoom in actually, let's show you a little bit more detail of that. So here we go. Let's go down, let's see if I can get a bit more light onto that. So 155 grain jacketed bullet, we'll go down, find our N550, there we are, N550, starting grains 42.5, same as, $49.7, exactly the same, velocities 2479, yep, and 2888, yep. Now the additional what you have here is the Lee Dipper, and that is 2.80. Lee Dipper, that is a Lee Dipper, it's a powder dipper, and that is a 2.8. So that's good news. So both data is exactly the same, which means that, you know, the chances are that it's going to be accurate for me. Now, starting loads, maximum loads, never exceed, it says never exceed 49.7 grains. That's because that's what it's been tested to. They don't recommend you go any higher than that, or this may happen. The trick with powder is to try and get the powder which fills the case up the most but gives you the best bang for your buck without exceeding pressure. So different powders will allow you to put more powder into your case so it's not rattling around so much, but then give you the right pressure for that rifle. Now, grains, it says, what did it said starting at 42.5, no more than 49.7. Somewhere along that range, between 42 and 49, my rifle will enjoy firing that particular bullet. What I have to do is find out what it is. So you don't make 50 rounds on 42.5 because that's the safe. You know you're not going to have an overpressure or anything like that. What you do is that you also try and get the round which suits the rifle. Now, when you look at someone like Johnny's Reloading, he will make 5 different batches, all different amounts of powder, and the differences between some are phenomenal. I can't show you some of his stuff because I'm nicking his video, and I don't think he would much appreciate that, but if you go onto his website you will see what I mean. It makes a massive difference, just a grain here and add a grain, take a grain out. Now the old boys, people that I learned to shoot with during the deer stalking days, they would say to me, yeah, your groups are a little bit big there, try putting a grain extra in your next batch. So add a grain, you want to put an extra grain in there, and you go back, you go home, you do it, and you come back onto the range and boom, there it is. Or maybe the opposite, you say, yeah, you want to take a grain out of that, you got too much in there. You know, these guys could tell you that just by going, yeah, look at that, yeah, I'll do it, add a grain, and it would get it right. Whereas I don't know how they did it, but they did. To that end, I'm going to make some ammunition from N550 155 grains, and I'm going to start at 4.25, and then I'm going to work up in increments, maybe 1 grain and then see how they fire when it gets to the range and with zero, and how accurate I can get those rounds in. And that's what I'm going to do. I know that's not going to be my long range ammunition, but it gets me back into it, and like I keep saying, it gets me back on the ranges. This is what I need to be doing. I haven't got a mile to shoot yet. I've only got a maximum, I think the longest distance I can fire on the land I have at the moment safely is 600 meters, so I can go up to 600 meters with mine at the moment. So that's all I need. So 155 at 600 meters is what I'll be firing at. So let's now look at prepping the ammunition, prepping everything, getting the powder ready, and then perhaps later on put some rounds together. There is a reason that I have gone through and told you about my case overall length differences, my ogive differences, and there's a reason I've gone through all that. It's because if I don't do it, if I don't explain it, somebody will tell me that I need to do it. So I have to show you, just so as it stops people saying, have you tried this? Yes, I have. Thank you. If I have missed something which is fundamental, by all means let me know. But these are the reasons that I do show you and spend a lot more time explaining why I'm doing stuff, because there's a lot of people that will offer that information even when it's not really wanted. And sometimes not in a very nice manner too. So if you think I'm getting a little bit too detailed about stuff, that's the reason why. Or if you think I'm covering stuff that is irrelevant, that's the reason why. To stop people bitching at me about stuff that they think I should be doing. Remember, like I said from the very start, rifle shooting is contradictory in itself. Thousands of different ways of doing the same thing. And every day people argue about, you should have done this, you should have done that. I'm not interested in getting involved with arguments about a way to do it. So I've gone my way. Okay, shall we move on? Let's move on. So my next step is resizing, just making sure that every piece of brass that I put through this rifle is exactly the same length. So I'm just going to go back to a factory reset. This is brand new brass, it's never been fired before. So I am, rightly or wrongly, I am going to resize it, I'm going to lube it, I'm going to put it through the mill, and then at least then I know that everything is right, and then I've got no deformities with the brass. That's why I'm doing it. You do it your way. Now this stuff I got from a good friend of mine who works with cars, and they use it to work on the paintwork of cars. But what it is really good for, it's like a cloth material. It's like not paper. It feels like paper, but it's not. But what it's really good for is working with rifles and generally just cleaning stuff up. So yeah, it's really good stuff. I like it. Thank you, Chris. It comes in real handy. So I'm going to clean all my brass up, get rid of all the sticky residue, and get back to you. Obviously when working with primers and powders you must wear eye protection. So I am. All 50 are now primed, and what I've got to do now is get some powder in them, and this is where the science begins. Scales, measurements. Now yes, this is small scale, okay? I've not got any automatic powder measurers, I've not got anything fancy. I've got scales and a trickle charge, and that's all I've got. So bear with me. It is very small scale, but it is, I do find this bit quite therapeutic. It is something that I really enjoy doing. I don't know why, I just do. It's very therapeutic for me. So yeah, first of all I'm going to do some starting loads, record them, come up a grain, record them, up a grain, record them, yada yada yada. 5 rounds at a time. And that's how I'm going to play it. Okay. Again, I will show you what's going on, but in no great detail. You'll just see me going through the motions of powdering up. Now, one thing that you may or may not know is, as mentioned earlier, about getting the right amount of powder in the cartridge itself. Now, the reason that you want it as full as you possibly can is to prevent double charges. Overpressure in a barrel will destroy your rifle without a shadow of a doubt. It's surprising how much power these things have, as you've previously seen. So you don't want to double charge your cartridge, so at least it needs to be at least 3/4 the way full, so that if you do accidentally double charge it and try and put another lot of powder in, it will overfill and you will know you've double charged it. And if you think that can't happen, it bloody well can. And as soon as you lose concentration for a minute, it's very easy to put that same cartridge back in, ready to go again, and try and fill it again. So it is easily done. So anyway, without further ado, let's move on. Let's get some powder in. Oh, and I have to wear my glasses now. I didn't need to at one point, but yes, over the last 18 months I now have to wear my glasses when it comes to powder measuring, and I've just tried wearing them with my safety specs and guess what, they're not compatible, so I'm going to have to go with just these as my protection. I guess that's all I can do, otherwise I can't see. There you go, a classic double feed or double charge. I just lost concentration for a while, and that's what happened. I ended up refilling the same cartridge with another one, and because it's more than 3/4 full, it fills the cartridge up and you know you've done it wrong. It's a bit of a health and safety feature, really. So as we moved up, the fill of the powder got higher and higher until eventually it ended up just underneath the shoulder. So at 46 grains, which is there, compared to 43 grains, you can see there is quite a difference in the amount of powder that's inside, and we are really getting to its maximum capacity there. You will notice a couple of spills there. Oh well, never mind, but there you go. So I've just done the overall length gauge again with the 155 grain. Now usually when you do this the bullet gets stuck in here, so I had to tip the rifle up to get the bullet out. But look, that is my wait. There you can see the bullet, how far it's sticking out. If I take that away, you can see there was hardly any seating whatsoever for me. So that option for me to go right to the landing isn't really an option at all. I've got to bring it back. Well, now that we've established that my case overall length to the ogive of the barrel is far too excessive, where does that leave me? Well, it leaves me back to the good book, which gives me my case overall length. So we go back to 308 Winchester, which is what I'm using. You can quite clearly see down the bottom here, it's 2.810 inches overall length, and that will be my starting point. So that's the maximum length I can have it. I will put that in the press, set it at that, see how much of a seating I've got, and if I'm happy, keep it there. If I'm not, I'll bump it back until I'm happy that I've got enough seating for the bullet. And that is that. There isn't nowhere else I can go, because I can only follow now what guidance I've got from the book, as opposed to the guidance from using my equipment and doing it that way. I can't do it, got to do it this way. So I'm a little bit governed by that. I know that some rifles, that's how it just simply is, but some it works. The Tikka T3 tack, you have to go with a good book, because the breech is obviously excessive. But it's a precision rifle, and I don't know any better, so I'm quite happy to just go with what I know. So we've got our powders. We know a maximum overall length, which is 2.810. 2.810. Now let's get some bullets seated. So just out of curiosity, let's measure. Now I've used the case overall length guide. Let's just now check the ogive to see what relation and what consistency we've got with just using that set to that one height, putting the rounds in, you know, no different than you would normally do. Let's see how accurate the ogive is. In theory, if the bullets are all made the same, it should read the same within a few thou. So let's just see how it performs, and we'll take some random ones. I'll zero this. So it's zeroed. It's in millimeters. There we go. 54.34. 54.33. Oh, that's different. 54.29. 54.31. 54.34. One more. 54.35. So apart from the odd one, pretty much the same again. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm ashamed that other one's a little bit shorter, but there must be a reason for it. I now have 50 rounds to go and play with. I have 20 to 0 check group. I have 5 A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Each one marked on the bullet in accordance with what I've written down in my notebook, and also on the inside of the box in the lip I've also written that information down there as well. If you write anything more than A, B, C or D, then what happens is eventually you run out of space, so you can reuse that every single time. It's entirely up to you how you do it. That's just how I do it. So one other thing that you will see often on ranges are little devices like this to show you the wind speed. And again, that's absolutely no problem. Tells you the wind speed of where you are at that moment in time. Doesn't give you any information about further down the range, but it does assist you as to where you are. At short range, wind doesn't really make that much of a difference anyhow. I'm talking short range, I think up to 100 meters. It does make a difference, but only very tiny. So whether you find these useful or not is entirely up to yourself. I'm not going to crab it either way. If you use them, great. If you don't use them, that's entirely up to you. Anyway, to finish with, we have today in this video looked at load development from a starting point of view, and some of the issues that you can come across which people will tell you is the be all and end all way of doing something, and then you realise that that's not possible for you, and I've proved that today as well. So whatever route we go down, whatever path you take down this precision shooting avenue, you're always going to come across bumps, hiccups and issues along the way, and we're just starting out on that, so I expect to see a few more as well. So the next time we're on the range, we're going to fire those 50 rounds. We're going to have a look at which of the groups hopefully tighten or get bigger depending on how many grains of powder was in there. So we'll hopefully find the right one for that rifle, mark it and log it, and that then is, for the 155 rounds, my go-to load, and that's how it goes. So I've now developed, or hopefully developed, a stable round for the 155 grain hollow point, and we'll do that again when I get the powder and rounds or bullets that I'm after. So until then, I hope you found it interesting. I hope you learned something, or maybe picked up a few tips. If you didn't, that's fine, and I hope I just entertain you for however long this video is, I don't know. Until next time then, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for watching it through to the end. Like and subscribe if you wish, and see you next time. Bye bye. One round, apple, in your own time. Crack on. You little apply, apply. Got him.